I mean,
generals are not there to fight the street battles. That's what they've got. That's what the soldiers are there to do.
yeah. Well, Ukrainian officials have said a ninth Russian general is believed to have been killed in the war. And while the death isn't yet confirmed, it's reported that he died in an artillery strike near the northeastern city of Izium on Saturday. We can talk to Major General Tim Cross now, who's a retired British Army commander. Good afternoon to you, Tim.
Good afternoon.
Now, tell me, give me your thoughts on this. A ninth general seemingly down, which seems a pretty high proportion of general officers. I wonder, when you hear news like that, Tim, as a former serving major general in the British Army, what goes through your mind seeing a headline like that?
It is a lot. I mean, it's not that unusual in one sense. I mean, people tend to think, for example, that World War One, no senior officers got killed. That's not true. A lot of very senior officers got killed in World War One and indeed in other campaigns. But to lose this many in this particular campaign is interesting, if that's the right word. I commanded one of the 3 divisions of the UK Field Army, and my division had 11 brigades and over 60 regimental commanders, battalion level commanders. And we work under a system called mission command, which means that we give our commanders what we want them to achieve, the intent behind what the campaign that we're undergoing, the battle, whatever, and then we leave people to get on with it. Now, sometimes it is necessary to go forward as a senior officer to sort of give a bit of a kick or to enhance momentum or whatever, but it's relatively unusual. And I think a number of these Russian generals have had to do that because they are dealing with a largely conscript army. The British Army, of course, is a full-time professional army. And the troops on the ground, the tactical level, has not been going well. So a number of these senior officers, I think the Russians have to go forward, find out what's going on the ground and try and impart some momentum and some impetus behind, what their guys are getting up to.
Right. So the loss of these generals is a symptom of failure. The orders are going down, presumably from the most senior officers, but on the ground it's simply not happening. So they're going down there and out there to see what's going on.
Yeah, I think there's certainly an aspect of that. I mean, if this latest one was killed in an artillery barrage, that, to be frank, I don't know where that is in terms of where he was killed. So anybody, of course, can be killed in an artillery barrage. I mean, I served in the Balkans and in Iraq twice and so forth, and artillery reaches out long distances. So it's not necessarily that in this case, this guy was a long way forward. But basically, no, your assumption is right. If things aren't going well, if people aren't implementing the plan, then you have to go forward and find out what's going on. And that comes back to things like communications, how well the communication is working. And in particular, I have to say, about relationships between the 2-star level, major general level of command, the 1-star brigadiers and the commanding officers. Yeah. And if they don't know each other well, and if the general doesn't have confidence in them, or indeed they don't have confidence in him, then that makes life very much more complicated and difficult.
So if you're the Ukrainian military, it's not just the success of hitting a high value enemy asset, because a general is a high value enemy asset. It shows that your campaign is going well in all sorts of other ways too. I presume it's part of a general's job description, Tim, to keep out of avoidable danger.
Well, to a degree, yes. But on the other hand, everybody in a campaign like this is there to get on with the job and do whatever they feel is necessary. But yeah, you're not there to engage in the tactical level street fighting day to day, which your soldiers are there to do. I mean, the Ukrainians, again, we need to just again put a slight context into this. The Ukrainians, generally speaking, have been defending territory. So they've been dug in, well positioned, and so forth. And the way that they are putting that together, their doctrine of how to defend in these eastern provinces and so forth, is different if you are conducting offensive operations. Yeah. Offensive operations, you need to build momentum, you need to press on, you need to reinforce success, you need to shut down anything that's not working well and shift your point of attack and so forth. So it is more complicated in offensive operations, and for senior military, be they commanding officers, brigade commanders, or indeed divisional commanders, that often does necessitate a slightly different approach.
Yeah, I mean,
generals are not there to fight the street battles. That's what that's what the soldiers are there to do.
Yeah. I mean, you made the point that a large part of the Russian frontline force now is young conscripts. I've read in one report that generals were making themselves more visible in the front line to try and boost morale, which suggests that morale needs boosting. I mean, how important is that to to a general, someone like you. I remember reading somewhere that in the Napoleonic War, the Duke of Wellington, the British commander, he remarked that Napoleon's hat was worth 5 divisions, just the sight of his hat. He meant
Yeah,
by
that's
that.
true.
Now, what about that role for a general to show well, I don't know if you wear gold lace in battle, but you know what I mean, showing your presence just to lift things.
Yeah, there's certainly an element of that. I mean, having said that, we must remember that Wellington, for example, could see the whole battlefield from where he was, and many of his soldiers could see him. That's not the case today in a modern battlefield. But generals could be slightly eccentric. They can wear certainly slightly different clothing and so forth. I mean, I wore a particular hat that I wore during the Gulf campaign and during the Balkans, and a very good friend of mine carried a staff,
Yeah.
a large shepherd's crook.
What sort of hat did you wear?
Sorry again?
What sort of hat
Well,
was
it
that?
was sort of Australian hat that I picked up some time ago, and it rather became similar. And I also had a jacket that was slightly different. I mean, it was a warm jacket that I wore in the Balkans in particular, with various things on it. But let's pick up this point about the moral side of this, not morality, but the morale.
Yeah.
In British Army doctrine, what we're talking about here is the ability to fight and win on a battlefield. Fighting power is what you deliver as an army. And that's the stuff. We call that the physical component of fighting power. That's the tanks, the aeroplanes, the logistics of all of your forces. Then there's the conceptual stuff. How do you use that equipment? Do you use it well? Do you know how to use it in a modern battlefield sense? I mean, Iraq had shed loads of stuff in the first Gulf War, but they tried to fight almost a World War I battle. And we, the coalition, outthought them as well as outfought them. But the third component, the moral component, is the crucial component in warfare. And going back to your point about the Duke of Wellington, Napoleon has also said that the moral is to the physical as 3 is to 1. In other words, the moral component is absolutely crucial. Now, you're not going to win a battle without good kit, and you're not going to win it if you don't understand how to use it well. But the key differentiator is the will to fight and be prepared to die on the battlefield. And that moral component, there's absolutely no doubt. The Ukrainians have got that in spades, and the Russian forces do not have it in anywhere near the same capacity. So officers having to go forward and meet their soldiers and talk to them and encourage them and try and convince them that what's going on is the right thing to be doing, et cetera, is far more important in that sense for the Russian military than the Ukrainian military.
It's really interesting. Thank you for coming on. That's Major General Tim Cross there, former British Army commander.